Hello again team, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin and welcome back for another weekly plan with me. In today's video I'm going to be setting up for week 6 of 2020, which is the 3rd through to the 9th of February. Before we get into that though, as per usual we're going to have a look at how this week is going. Now to be completely honest with you, I've barely touched my bullet journal in week 5. As it's been the first week back at school, I've mainly been working in my teacher planner, and I do have a video of that one coming up next Sunday, but I'm still working on how I want to balance my use of my bullet journal with my use of that and my use of my power sheets. I've enjoyed this style of layout for January, but I'm pretty keen to try some new things in Feb. Obviously, because the week coming is completely in February, it's going to be after all of my February pages. If you hadn't already checked out my February plan with me, there's a link to that one in the cards above. Please do feel free to go check it out. As you can see on this one, I've already gone in with pencil to sketch out my decoration, and I have laid down some washi tape. As per usual, all of the equipment I use in today's setup is linked in the description box below, and let's get into it. As you can probably tell, this week's spread is inspired by Minecraft. So I have the little pickaxe, the little axe, a little shovel or spade, and a little hoe. I've decided to go with the diamond ones just because I really wanted to use some blue. As I've been doing with the rest of my pixel drawings for February, all of these I did use a reference image for. So please do not think that I went in and just free-handed these blind. From the first touch of the pen in this one to the final writing in of my numbers for each day of the week, this spread took 46 minutes. That doesn't include, however, the laying down of the washi tape and the penciling that I did before I came in and did this plan with me. For laying down washi tape, that probably added another 40 seconds. But the penciling in did take a little while, probably an extra 15 or so minutes. Admittedly, I was watching Gossip Girl at the time, so it didn't really have my full attention. But that is something to be mindful of if you were looking to recreate this one. It is a little bit time consuming. Well, more time consuming than the ones I've been doing for January at the very least. In terms of answering the questions that were left on last week's plan with me, our first one comes from Molly, who asked, for your running to-do list, do you do a dot on the day of the week you plan to complete the task, and X on the day you actually complete the task? That is exactly what I do. What I'll also do is put in a half cross or a slash on any day that I worked on the task but didn't get it completed. Our second question comes from Nikki, who asked, now that you've been in your Archer and Olive for a few weeks, what are your thoughts? I'm currently in my 3rd notebook by them, but I still feel there's something missing, yet I have no clue what else I'm looking for. I am enjoying my Archer and Olive. As I've talked about, I really do appreciate the thickness of the paper. Personally, I'd really like it if the pages had numbers, and I'm a little bit uneasy about the fact that on some of the pages, not a lot of them, but on some of them, the dot grids between the 2 pages don't actually line up very well, which means that when I do my weeklies that involve a lot of line ruling, they don't really match up, and it kinda looks a little skew-whiff. Although, as I mentioned, I do appreciate the thickness of the paper. Because I know it's more expensive and there are less pages, I'm not too sure if I'm ever going to end up doing any Dutch door layouts, which is a bit of a shame because I love Dutch door layouts. So I think I'm probably going to have another month or maybe one more in it, really to get a feel for what I do and don't like about this journal. I'm also finding that because the cover of the journal is fabric, it is picking up dust a lot more easily than my other ones. But it also isn't getting stained by my desk like my other ones used to. Our next question comes from Courtney, who asked, when do you think is the best time to upload a plan with me on YouTube? It's funny because I was literally having this conversation earlier today, but I'm not too sure because I haven't really done any analytics analysis around when I upload my videos and when gets the most reach or click-through rates or anything like that. It is something that I would like to have a bit more of a look at because it would be nice if I was sharing my videos at optimal times. If you're thinking more like a monthly plan with me and a time of the month kind of thing, it really depends on what you want to get out of it. If you want people to recreate your spreads, then it's probably beneficial to share it a little bit more towards the middle of the month rather than the end, because you then give people the time to find your video and then use it as inspiration for their setup. I personally prefer to share my monthly plan with me on the last Sunday of the month though. Mostly because to me it seems like a more natural time to share it, and also because it fits in better with when I want to set my journal up. I know that probably wasn't the most helpful video. It is really one of those things that I'd probably have to have a little bit more of an in-depth look at, really pour through my analytics and stuff like that. And it is on my to-do list, but I haven't gotten around to it. Our next question comes from Muffin Machin. I might be saying that wrong, but they asked, have you ever considered going vegetarian/vegan? And if so, why did you decide not to? Consider's probably a strong word for what I did. I have mused with the idea maybe once or twice, but the thing is that I'm a really fussy eater. I'm very picky, so then to rule out animal products would really limit what I do already eat. That's the main reason I've decided not to be a vegetarian or a vegan. It's mainly just because it's more convenient for me not to be. Also, I really love chicken nuggets, and I think giving that up would be a little bit too much. Not only do I have to deal with my fussiness though, I also have to deal with what Vogel can't eat. So thinking about the Venn diagram of things that I eat, things that he eats, and things that are vegetarian or vegan, that's not a lot of things. Jacqueline asked, I'd love behind the scenes edit footage. Also, will you show us how you'll be using your teacher planner? Yes, I certainly will be. That video is coming next Sunday. I've only really been mainly using that teacher planner for a week now, so I'm going to give myself another week in it before I show you guys what I've done with it. Our next question comes from Veronica, who asked, which habit tracker works better, yearly, monthly, or weekly? Now, to answer this question, there are actually quite a few factors you probably have to think about. It probably depends on the type of habit and the type of tracking that you want to do for it. It also depends on how often you actually are inclined to go back and check on trackers. So for some of us, having them on our weekly logs is way more useful than having an overall yearly one, because we just never turn back to the yearly trackers. I know I personally fall victim to that a lot. Pretty much all of the trackers that I set up for myself that are intended to be for an entire year do not get filled in or just do not get utilized the way I wanted them to. I've personally found that monthly is kind of my sweet spot. My monthly habit tracker is one of my favorite pages to use in my journal. I also like the idea of looking at my habits on a monthly basis because every month I do change what habits I want to track. If I'm using a yearly tracker, I've essentially told myself that for the entire year I have to track that habit. And although that probably works really well for some people, and for some big picture goals that we have, having yearly trackers for our habits would probably be very useful. But as I mentioned, I'm really bad at using yearly trackers. I think it kind of depends on what is a manageable chunk of time for you. If committing yourself to tracking something for an entire month seems too daunting, just try tracking it for a week. Or if tracking something for a month is really easy for you, then maybe you do want to track it for a year. Again, if it's something that you want to commit yourself to for a year. Different length trackers will work better for different people. As I said, my personal preference is the monthly, because I like to commit to tracking my habits on a month-by-month basis. Also, I don't like having to draw out too many trackers, so having to draw a tracker for my habits every single week as part of my weekly log seems like way too much of a hassle for me. I feel like with a lot of the questions today, I'm just not being helpful. Sorry about that, team. Our last question comes from Daphne, who asked, I hope it's not too personal, but I'm wondering if you grew up in New Zealand or if you grew up in Australia and then moved. And if you did move, what sparked it? So I moved to New Zealand when I was 16 because my dad got a job over here. Initially we were planning on just spending 2 years here, but it's now been 11 and I'm still in New Zealand. The time that I spent here was my last 2 years of high school and then university and then up until now. So the friends that I've had for the memorable part of my life are New Zealand based, which is mainly why I decided to stay. As always, a huge thank you to our inquirers from last week. If you guys have a question you want me to answer on next week's video, please do leave them in the comments below. Alrighty, so we have a space for each day of the week for my events, and then a long-running to-do list on this page here. All in all, this is actually quite a simple spread. Outside of the decorative parts, it's really just 8 ruled lines and a couple of headers. As you guys know, I don't typically do a lot of decoration on my weeklies, but I think this is quite cute. and I am looking forward to using the spread. Thank you for watching, team. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and if you wanted to see more from me, feel free to go check out one of my other videos. Until next time, bye!